Anyway, I want to thank my sponsor, Card Kingdom. We are going to head into another look at upcoming M20 cards. And since this is going to be the beginning of a YouTube video, I thought I would throw out a shout out to my sponsor, Card Kingdom. I really appreciate everything they do for the Magic community. They're doing fine for themselves as well, I'm sure, but we need places like Card Kingdom to do this hobby as efficiently as we want. You can get what you want from them. They have everything you need on the Magic front: singles, sealed product, buying, selling, trade-ins if you want to convert your stuff to store credit. So please check out Card Kingdom for all of your Magic needs. Thanks, Card Kingdom. We started yesterday talking about blue and white. I'm just going to continue down the list here. We're looking at commons and uncommons from M20, kind of a third LR opinion, basically. And let's start with Agonizing Siphon. 3 and a black for a sorcery. Agonizing Siphon deals 3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life. It's going to be a high pick, good removal. Incidental life gain is fine. You see we're getting worse and worse. Like, if you compare this to what you expect from red, take like a Jaya's Greeting, right? 2 mana instant, 3 damage, scry 1. That's significantly better than this, but that's red. Red gets to do that. It's playable at 4. It's just not as exciting as a lot of the removal you see it in red at lower cost. But I imagine I'll first pick this before the format's over. If you're uncommons and rares or junkers, this is not an unreasonable first pick. It's just not super exciting as far as removal goes, but it's solid. And there does seem to be some life gain synergies, so the life gain is also going to be a big plus for some decks. Audacious Thief is 2 and a black for a 2/2 human rogue at common. Whenever Audacious Thief attacks, you draw a card and lose 1 life. That is great. Wowie. I mean, we're generally happy to do that. If this were 2 and a black 2/2, when this card ETBs, draw a card and lose a life, we basically have a 1 power short juggler that was always on at 3. But that's just one time. The thing here is that you're still going to get your 1 time unless they kill it. Like, nobody's going to spend removal on this, I don't think. And even if they have a 5/5 or whatever, you can attack in and you'll be replacing itself even if it's going to get eaten. One thing that excites me about cards like this in terms of how you can kind of get them is that when you have a creature with an ability like this, a lot of times when you attack your 2/2 into their 3/3, they're going to assume that you're just going ahead and trying to get a card back and that you're giving up the thief. So if there's things like +2/+0 and indestructible, or death touch, draw a card, anything like that, if you can, combat tricks work great with the thief is what I'm getting at. Like, combat tricks work great with cards like this because Oppo thinks you're up to something else than you're actually up to. Or evasion. There's the white aura that says target creature, ETB, draw a card, and enchanted creature gets flying. That seems like amazing with this. If you can turn this into a flyer and start drawing every turn. Anyway, looking forward to trying to make this be stupid good. Not stupid good is Barony Vampire, a 2/3, a 3/2 for 3, just usual. We try not to play this, but sometimes you're forced to, is the bottom line there. Hey, I was just talking about this. Bladebrand is back and is a great move with Audacious Thief. So you send in, they think you're just trying to get the card, you do get the card, and then you get another card and take out their blocker on the way out. Yeah, solid. I guess it's cool. I think that's not taking away anything from Darken, but doesn't blow me away. Magic art is just good these days. We saw Bladebrand in RNA, and it does good work. Surprise death touch out of nowhere, especially if you're making a lot of tokens. Like this also seems to go well with the token making we saw in white. Give one of your tokens death touch and draw a card on it. Seems great. Blight Beetle, 1 and a black for a 1/1 pro green. Creatures your opponents control can't have +1/+1 counters put on them. Super sideboardy, but playable, I guess. I just don't like that it's a 1/1 for 2. But if you're up against green and need to do some endless blocking, you can do worse. Yeah, this again seems somewhat like a constructed plant. One of the things I was saying to Marshall as we were discussing the return of protection, as I said, I certainly hope it's on a cycle of cards intended for constructed. Because if they're not constructed worthy cards, what are they even doing, right? I'm eating some soup. It's a chicken broccoli soup. So yeah, more for constructed, but you'll bring it in out of the board sometimes. I don't think you're going to want to main deck this ever, though. Blood Burglar is 1 and a black for a 2/2 creature, vampire rogue at common. As long as it's your turn, Blood Burglar has lifelink. It's weird because, yeah, I guess like Child of Night is 2/1, always lifelink. And so in this case, you get an extra point of toughness, but you don't get lifelink on your turn, which does make it a lot worse. I mean, like a lot of the thing you're running a like the take the 2/1 lifelinker for 1 and a black that the Child of Night that we've seen so often. Child of Night, one of its jobs is to trade for a 2 toughness attacker and gain you 2 life, right? Like you're trying to, in a black deck, maybe make it to your late game where you feel like you have the advantage. And the role of a Child of Night is to trade and gain a little life. So in this case, you lose that play, you lose the gain life. But 1 toughness is not nothing. Especially depends on what we see. Like if there's a lot of 1/1 tokens, like we've seen from white, it's much better to have the 2 toughness. So it's just a little more aggro. Interesting little balance tweak to make. It's like they could have just reprinted Child of Night, but they went for Blood Burglar instead. Kind of an interesting little design tweak to create a new card there. But I think it's going to be playable, but how playable depends on really how much we like a 2/2 for 2 in this format, not how good the lifelink is. But lifelink synergies do seem to matter in the set, so keep that in mind. Blood for Bones is 3 and a black for a sorcery at uncommon, and it says as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. So first thing, if this gets countered, you don't get that creature back. So like you have to pay all costs before you know if anything is getting countered. So before you'd ever cast something like this, make sure you're not going to get really blown out by a counterspell. But then what does it do? Return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, then return another creature card from your graveyard to your hand. I like it. We've seen the return of pacifism. So one of the things that you can do with a card like this is bring it in against pacifism type effects and basically get free value. Then it's a kind of a free 2 for 1. But how good is this? Your graveyard, so you don't get to get stuff from any graveyard. Is this kind of a functional reprint? Let me look at what rescue is. Yeah, graveyard to battlefield is strong. So graveyard to battlefield is very strong, but it's 4 mana, so no guarantees you're going to get. Is Soul Salvage better? Well, they're just different. I mean, Soul Salvage is a Raise Dead variant. This goes to battlefield, so yeah. I'm not in love with this card, but I think it's playable and it's probably going to be good in certain decks that have expendable creatures inherently, and it's going to be very good out of the board against enchantment-based removal, of which I think there is some in the set. There's blue and white-based enchantment removal. Bloodsoaked Altar is a 4 black for a uncommon artifact. It better do something awesome. You can tap it, pay 2 life, and discard a card, and sacrifice a creature to create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying. Seems like it's going to get there eventually. The rough part is both discarding a card and sacrificing a creature. So you're giving up 2 cards to create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying. I don't want to throw this in any black deck, but if you are doing sacrifice shenanigans or tokens, then I start to like this a little more. But I'm not going to just run this in a black deck unless I know I'm creating expendable creatures somehow. Yeah, it's 3 cards to get your first 5/5. But if you are in a controlling deck that's playing an attrition battle and expects to draw some cards and has a lot of tokens and all that stuff, I could see this being playable, but you don't just want to run this in any black deck. You really want to make sure that the synergies are there for you to really mitigate the high cost of that first 5/5 token, which is 3 cards, and then 2 cards after that. And you're damaging yourself. You know, this is some real costs here. But I can also see it being an unstoppable win condition for a blue-black deck that's going to draw a lot of cards and create some tokens or something. I don't know if there's tokens in those in black, actually, so maybe it's needs another color to find those tokens. Bloodthirsty Aerialist is 1 black for a 2/3 flying at uncommon to start with. I like that already. And then whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Bloodthirsty Aerialist. Well, we have it. I wasn't too thrilled with any of the big payoffs I saw in white for life gain, but this is a real payoff for black and the life gain strategy. So I think there's probably enough incidental life gain in black alone that you don't have to think of this as a black-white card, but it's going to be at its best in black-white, black-white life gain. Boneclad Necromancers, 3 black for a 3/3 human wizard at common. When Boneclad Necromancer enters the battlefield, you may exile target creature card from a graveyard. If you do, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So, on turn 5, if nothing is dead, you get a 3/3 for 5, which is patently awful. If you can do the Fang, then you're getting 5 power and toughness split across 2 cards for 5, which is really nice, especially in black. So I think mostly you're happy to run this. It's a 5-drop, so beware of 5-drop gluts, and also make sure you're playing a lot of cheap creatures. You want to be trading, if you have this in your deck and you're making those trade or not trade decisions, you're going to lean towards trade more often. I think it's just okay, though. That's my early opinion. Although it does give you a token, that means you can do something with that token. I don't know. A lot of setup. I want this to, if this were 3 mana or 5 mana, create a 3/3 and a 2/2 zombie, I'd be very thumbs up. But I do think you're just going to hit times where you hit 5, turn 5, you have the mana for this, and you don't have the creature in the graveyard, and then I just think that you're going to be really sad. So that potentiality makes me a little lower on this card, but I think we'll play it. Yeah, blink. If there's some blinking, that could be fun too. It's not a ton of value late, though. Generally, if you're blinking stuff late for value, the board is clogged, and getting an extra 2/2 is like whatever. It kind of depends on what the power of the blink is. We got Bone Splinters back, which is just now a strictly worse Spark Harvest, right? And we've seen how important it is to have that 5-mana mode on Spark Harvest. Oh, it's any graveyard. Okay, good point. Sorry, I missed that. From a graveyard. That does make it a little better, but it does make you still want to have removal and make sure you're killing stuff. But that is a little better. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for calling that out. Still not as good, obviously, as just do it, but it gets a little bit closer to that. I wouldn't take Bone Splinters too highly unless you are creating a lot of expendable stuff. But you're still going to play one, even if you don't really have a lot of great expendable stuff. Dark Remedy is 1 and a black instant. Target creature gets +1/+3 until end of turn. A weird little black combat trick. I'm not very high on combat tricks anyway, much less ones that only do this much work. So pretty down on Dark Remedy, but it's a 2-mana combat trick. You know, there's a lot less playable cards than that. Disfigure, however, this is going to be a card I'll probably be first picking here and there. Straight up -2/-2 for a single black. One of the things to remember about this type of effect, the -2/-2 at instant speed effect, is that you do get to take down bigger creatures in combat with it. I attack with my 3/3, you block with your 4/4, I shrink your 4/4 to a 2/2 and then eat it, you know? So it doesn't just get rid of 2 toughness, you can use it in combat effectively to mess up some combat math and get something much bigger than you thought you might. High pick. Run all that you can get. Duress is not really main deckable. It's a classic card. A single black mana for a sorcery that says target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. That player discards that card. I don't think I'm ever even bringing this in out of the board. I think it's not a good enough limited card to ever run. Epicure of Blood is 4 and a black for a 4/4 creature vampire at common, and this is a reprint. We've seen this before. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Make a note that that is 1 life regardless of how much life you gained. A lot of these effects kind of mirror it, so if you gain 5, you deal 5. In this case, if you gain 5, you deal 1. They lose 1, so don't misplay that or misplan around that. But if you're gaining a lot of life, especially turn by turn, this builds up over time. It's just 4/4 for 5 is very underwhelming, so you really need to be making really good use of the life gain trigger here to justify running the vampire here. Yes, multiple triggers will trigger it multiple times. So if you have, let's say you attack with 3 lifelinkers, each of those lifelinkers will... oh, no, wait, maybe that's not true. Does that work? Because if I attack with 3 lifelinkers and they hit all at once, it's just going to gain 3 all at once, right? So maybe that's not right. Maybe all attack damage that has lifelink is considered 1 source. I'm sure somebody in chat will clarify that, but wasn't 100% sure on that one. Also, is this... I wonder if the VODs are going to be able to see this chat enough, because I could also go, like... Give me 1 second here. I can go... Copy the chat box, go back to left monitor, and try pasting. And then for here, where do we put it? Try something else here. See if this is better for legibility. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Well, actually, hold on. Sorry for the delay. This is what we call a hack. No, no. Oh, let me pull this up. I think that's a little more legible for YouTube friends and whatnot, so we'll go with that. And then I just have to have my chat where I can see it. Mediocre Magic Man. Oh, it's Lever says that it works. It would trigger it 3 times. Okay, good. All right, let's continue. Thank you for your patience as I, set that up for a little better viewing. I told Jay that we're going to wait till next week because I wanted to finish this. Like, this is going to be my post-draft content today. Jay does have a deck to share, though, that I will share with you after this is over, okay? Remind me to share Jay's deck before we finish today. Fathom Fleet Cutthroat, getting some reprints here. Human Pirate, 3/3 for 3 and a black. When Fathom Fleet Cutthroat enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. Historically, this hasn't been very good. We've enjoyed Vraska's finisher a little bit more in War of the Spark because of its ability to finish off planeswalkers. I think one of the big reasons Vraska's finisher elevated above a card like Fathom Fleet Cutthroat is that ability, that you could send a 1/1 towards a planeswalker, and if they had a 5/5 blocker, for example, either they're going to block it and you get the 5/5, or they're not going to block it and you get to finish off the planeswalker. That's super powerful. In this case, we're not really going after planeswalkers much, so Fathom Fleet Cutthroat is going to fall a lot farther than where Vraska's finisher ended up. Oh, you made a comment. What was your comment? I see. Yeah, it looks like we got it. You got it answered. Oh yeah, you're right. I can close this panel. How though? View. We can take off the status bar. Can't take off. How about this? Go full screen. That worked. No, okay. That's good enough, Vaporkin. It's all right. Feral Abomination is a Dominaria reprint. As far as 6-drops go, it was pretty good. The thing with Death Touch 5/5 is that if they don't have a clean 1-for-1 trade, if they don't have a creature with 5 power, you basically get 2-for-1 in order for them to take it out. So I found Feral Abomination to be pretty strong. Reasonably strong. For a 6-drop, you don't want to prioritize them and you're going to take them late, but you can totally run them. And at least it was a fine play in Dominaria. Hey, got the job! Rigid got the job, everybody. Congrats. That is awesome. That feels so great. That feels so great to get the job. Love it. Tell me exactly what to do to minimize the ribbon and I will, but I've right-clicked on a bunch of stuff and can't get it to... there, minimize, that's it. That is it. Literally that. Okay, there we go. Thanks all. I was just looking for a check mark. Usually they have like a check and uncheck, so it was a little UI whatever there. But now you're just up against the Card Kingdom logo. Maybe I can move that here. And I'm just going to hide the CK logo for now. They'll understand. Better to have the chat visible. In fact, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take... See, I've got this... this is the one that disappears sometimes. And if I copy this one and go back to left monitor, and I paste this one in, where'd it go? No, it's not this one that I want. I do want this one. No? Where'd it go? Sorry, hold on. I really want to do this now. CK animated, copy, left monitor, delete this, and delete this. No, stop that. Now we're going to paste this. I might cut this out of the YouTube vid. If I didn't, sorry guys. Okay, that's what I wanted. because now the sponsorship banner will show up every once in a while. It'll go away. Oh, it's locked. That's what was going on there. I want to drag it down. Okay. Thanks for your patience. That's where I wanted it. Now, every once in a while, the logo will come up, but it'll largely go away and not get in the way of chat. Hey, keeping the lights on is what it's all about. Honest day's work. I salute you. Gorging Vulture is a 2 and a black. 2 and a black for a 2/2 bird. I bet it flies. Hey, it flies. When Gorging Vulture enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. You gain 1 life for each creature card put into your graveyard this way. I mean, this is just a 2/2 flyer for 3 with some upside. And the upside is notable because of the next card. Gravedigger, 3 and a black for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. A classic. This was an Urza's Saga card that has stood the test of time and gets reprinted all over the place. And so yeah, Gorging Vulture works well with Gravedigger and with the one we were looking at up here, with Blood for Bones. Fill up your graveyard with some creatures and then get them back. But Gravedigger is kind of a windmill slamish first pick if you don't have an awesome rare. This is going to be one of the better uncommons. Just value town. Oh, on Gravedigger, I believe Gravedigger was reprinted in the Amonkhet block with this art. So this is like Amonkhet Gravedigger. But yeah, pick this early and often. Gruesome Scourger, 3 black for a 3/3 uncommon orc warrior. When Gruesome Scourger enters the battlefield, it deals damage to target opponent or planeswalker equal to the number of creatures you control. That can be a lot. This might be, if there's an aggro black deck, this could be a good finisher there. I mean, on a typical board, you sometimes have, you know, in a late game situation, call it 2 to 7 creatures, you know, like 2 to 6 creatures is pretty common in a late game of Magic. And you can see how that could really be the closing damage you need. Thing is, it's a 3/3 for 5. So you're not very excited about, I was talking about, you know, we looked at a 3/3 for 5 that might give you a 2/2. And I was like, well, I don't know, it better give me the dang 2/2. So while this is an interesting top-end finisher, it's really awkward to draw and cast before it's doing that great late-game work. So, going to be pretty swingy. You're going to lose to this card sometimes, but try to remember when your opponent casts it as a 3/3 for 5 that does a couple damage on turn 5. I mean, one thing, it always deals 1. It's always going to, because it has itself, so it's going to deal 1. And maybe if they're playing Planeswalkers, that can even be enough sometimes, but I don't know. Yeah, with white and a bunch of tokens, maybe. I think it's easy to get best case scenario mentality about something like Gruesome Scourger and imagine the 10 creatures you have out that just end the game, but just sometimes it's a 3/3 on 5 with one other creature out that doesn't do a whole lot. Mind Rot. Mind Rot hasn't been historically amazing in Limited, but it can be played, and there are matchups. If you're in a long, grindy matchup, you're going to want that. Whatever. We're going to see this 13th pick a lot, I bet. I'd be shocked if there were rare uncommon planeswalkers. I think that was a thing they did for... well, we know Chandra's in here, right? Are all of Chandra's rare? Maybe there's some rare. I'll be surprised if there's uncommon planeswalkers, I'll say that. Murder! Murder most foul! Windmill Slam. Black on a common is kind of oppressive, but what this does do is let people not splash murder. The nice thing about the oppressive cost is that it will make it to the black deck players. It's not going to be splashed in a lot of decks. Uncommon Chandra. The one uncommon Chandra, okay. They're making a vertical cycle there. That's kind of what they call that. When there's a common, uncommon, rare, and mythic. Not that there's a common Chandra, but you know. Murder is common. Is it a sad state? I mean, R&D is trying to find the right place to land, and maybe they needed it at common here. I don't know. But we're going to certainly pick it and play it a lot. Noxious Grasp is 1 and a black for an instant uncommon. Destroy target creature or planeswalker that's green or white. You gain 1 life. Instant sideboard card, but then it's going to be one of your better ones there. Although, look, I mean, here's just destroy a creature. For 1 more black, forget all the nonsense, you just destroy it. Oh, you know what? I know what I can do. I'm actually going to leave the text on screen, but it doesn't have to, you guys don't even need to see it. Oops, now you are. Sanitarium Skeleton, we've seen this before. It's a 1/2 for a single black, and you can pay 2 and a black to return it from your graveyard to your hand. Sacrifice stuff loves this. This is going to be great for, you know, like, for example, this is the kind of card I want to have for, where's our artifact from before? Let's go take a look at it. This thing, pay 2 life, discard a card, sacrifice a creature. If you are sacrificing things you can get back, it becomes a lot better. So I'm going to want Sanitarium Skeleton for shenanigans like that. But if you're not doing shenanigans, it's not super playable unless you're just desperate for ground defense. Mostly, though, you want to be abusing the fact that it's easy to bring back. Savage Gorger is 1 black for a 1/1 flying. At the beginning of your end step, if an opponent lost life this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Savage Gorger. That seems great for a common. It's got flying. It counts itself, so if you can just get it through for that early attack, it starts to grow. I think the problem is if they do have flying defenses, you have a 1/1 flying for 1 that is going to be tough to get big. Basically, it's bad when you're behind, because if you're behind, you have a 1/1 flyer, and then you're going to have a lot of trouble getting it bigger. But other things can get it bigger as well. So even if you can't attack with the flyer yet, if you have anything that gets through, you can get in. You can get in with. You can get the tokens going on the Gorger here. Oh, sorry, is that Planeswalker deck card I'm talking about? We're never going to draft it anyway. Thank you. Missed it. 291 of 280. So yeah, Planeswalker deck card. Forget Savage Gorger. You will not be drafting it. Sorcerer of the Fang. 1 and a 3. 1/3 for 1 and a black human wizard. What does it do, though? 5 and a black, tap, Sorcerer of the Fang deals 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. So you defend early, and then late game, kind of bring them down to the end. Maybe that's playable. It has an early job, it has a late job. Yeah, I think this is a better Vampire Opportunist, assuming you're in a controlling deck. Yeah, does something late for 6 mana. So, do we like it? Do we play it? I think it depends on how good a 1/3 is. 1/3 for 2 is. If that's an important card, this is going to be fine. If you are just If 1/3 is not an important stat on 2, I don't know if we're going to play this too much. But I think for a control deck, if you can get there, this is really intimidating. You get them down to 8 or whatever, and then they're like, well, I'm going to lose to this thing eventually. Yeah, but you're going to get these super late. And here's Soul Salvage. We love ourselves a Soul Salvage in Dominaria, at least. Maybe this will help us do the survive until you can recur value trick here in M20. But it's a 2-for-1. So if you have a control deck that can make it to the late game, this is going to be fine for you. Thirsting Bloodlord, I think is a reprint. Feels familiar. 2 black for a 3/3. Maybe it's not. I don't know. You tell me. 3/3 for 2 black that is a vampire lord. Oh, yep. Also not in draft. Thank you. I should check that first every time. Not in draft. Forget Thirsting Bloodlord. Thought Distortion. 4 black sorcery. This spell can't be countered. Target opponent reveals their hand. Exile all non-creature, non-land cards from that player's hand and graveyard. And graveyard? I don't think this is playable. Way too slow for what it's doing. I don't think we're ever playing Thought Distortion. Undead Servant. When it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token for each card named Undead Servant in your graveyard. Yeah, you want a few of these before they're actually good, but a 3/2 for 4 is not anything we're happy about. But if it's a ground clog situation, you may be able to trade it off for something, and then so this is a reprint too. And when we saw it before, if you got enough of these, it was fine. But it does just create more ground stuff. So sometimes what you want is help in the air or help against big stuff, and like this, even getting the value out of it, you don't end up doing much with it. Yeah, self-mill helps with this. We saw the self-mill card up here. Gorging Vulture, enabling some strategies in the set. Unholy Indenture is 2 and a black for an enchantment, an aura, that enchants creatures. When enchanted creature dies, return that card to the battlefield under your control with a +1/+1 counter on it. We didn't see much play from Kaya's ghost form or whatever, so I don't think we're gonna be playing Indenture that much. Yeah, Seb is cool. Always interesting stuff from Seb's cards for sure. So I'm not expecting to play this basically ever, unless you're doing something really silly with the synergies. Vampire of the Dire Moon is a 1/1 Death Touch lifelink for 1. I'm behind that. Sure. You had me at 1/1 Death Touch for 1. The lifelink is just extra. It's great. Not necessarily like first pick or whatever, but you'll happily run those. Yeah, Strictly Better Hired Assassin. And as I've said, I like cheap Death Touch in black more than green, because green has inherent tools to deal with big beef by itself, but all right, Vengeful War Chief, 4 and a black for a 4/4 uncommon. Whenever you lose life for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Vengeful War Chief. So a 4/4 for 5 that gets bigger. It's not evasive or anything, so it just over time gets to be a bigger and bigger threat. I don't think that's particularly impressive. I think I'm probably running this if I don't, it's a fine 5. If you need a 5-drop, I bet you can do worse, but I also bet you can do better. But you're not going to be embarrassed to run a Vengeful War Chief if you just need to put something in your 5 slot. Yarok's Fen Lurker. What is a Fen Lurker? A thing that lurks in the fen, I guess. And this is black for a 1/1 horror at uncommon, and when it enters the battlefield, each opponent exiles a card from their hand. All right, so it's a 2-mana discard on the surface, and then it has a 2 and a black. When Yarok's Fen Lurker gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Super expensive pump. I really don't like the. Yeah, Fen is a yucky place. Swampland. So what do we think of this, though? The black concerns me. If it was 1 and a black, I would like this a little bit better. You could drop it on 2 a little more reliably. It's interesting that it exiles from their hand. I wonder why they chose that. Super weird to me that you would choose exile instead of discard. I'm not too impressed by this card, but it's not unplayable. You do get a card out of it. It's their choice. Exactly. Maybe I'll just play the Rat Burglar meme whenever we play Yarok's Fen Lurker. It's the 2 black I don't like. It's just that what I loved about Rat Burglar is that it came down on 2 all the time. If it were 1 and a black, it would be strictly better rats. I don't know if there's how many sack outlets we have, but here's another. We're into the red now. First red card is Act of Treason, classic reprint. And we did see some sacrifice stuff, especially in black, right? We were talking about the... Oh, I'll have to go all the way back up. Really? It was just this? Oh, there's this for sure. But then there was... What else do we like? Oh, Bone Splinters. Anyway. If you have some sacrifice effects, obviously this gets a lot better. If you don't have sacrifice effects, I wouldn't play it. It can come out of the board if you're in a race situation, 2 aggro decks or something. Here's our uncommon Planeswalker, Kandra Novice Pyromancer. For 3 and a red, you get a 5 loyalty Kandra Planeswalker. And plussing her, elementals you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. -1 is add red, and -2 is shock something. I mean, we're happy on the... I mean, this looks better than most of the War of the Spark uncommon Planeswalkers, right? I mean, she doesn't have a static, but she's got 3 abilities. I mean, elementals is obviously like whatever, you gotta have those. But really just -1 to add 2 and -2 to deal 2 damage both seem great. Like you can go shock something when she arrives and then untap for your 5th turn, play a land and have 7 mana available. So yeah, I like Novice Pyromancer quite a bit. I'm going to be first picking that a lot, I expect. Chandra's Ember Cat. Ooh, I looked down, I expected this to be over 280, but no, this is actually something we'll draft. 1 and a red for a 2/2, so it's a solid, it's for a long time, we didn't even give red 2/1s, or anything, even just 2/2s for 2. They only had 2/1s for 2. Power creep, though, so now everybody's got 2/2s for 2. Ember Cat has the ability to add red, spend this mana only to cast an elemental spell or a Chandra Planeswalker spell. You sure this is... I guess we're drafting it. Do we like it? I don't know. Again, it kind of depends on where 2/2s for 2 are at. But I don't think it's good. What am I saying? Like, obviously you need elementals, but I think in an elemental deck it's going to be really good. Speaking of stuff with Chandra on it, here's a first pickable common. Two red for an instant, deals 4 damage to target creature, excuse me, and 2 to the creature's controller. That's great. Pardon me. You know, take and play this a lot. Premium removal at common. Chandra's Spitfire, meanwhile, 2 and a red for a 1/3 flyer. Whenever an opponent is dealt non-combat damage, Chandra's Spitfire gets +3 and +0 until end of turn. Nice that these are side by side. I think these appeared in a set together before, and you can see how they would work well together. You have this 1/3 flyer, and they drop their Sarah Angel, and you just kill Sarah Angel, deal 2 to them, which triggers the Spitfire, and you attack for 4. That being said, it doesn't happen a lot. I mean, mostly this is a 1/3 flyer for 3, which is just okay. Mostly it's just going to be okay. But sometimes you'll get this incidental extra damage, and then it's nice. And yeah, and it is an elemental for that sub-theme going on. Also, it's really jumping out to me that the resolution of Chandra's Spitfire is like way better than the resolution on Chandra's Outrage. I don't know what's going on there, but all this aliasing and anyway. Dagger Sail Aeronaut is 3 and a red for a 3/2, and as long as it's your turn, Dagger Sail Aeronaut has flying. No, red getting a what do they call that? It's not a wind drake, but a something drake. The snapping drake. Thank you. I knew it was a drake something. Thanks, James. Well, does not defend against flyers, but probably does what red wants to do, right? I think this is really good for red. Red wants to generally be attacking anyway, so giving it a 3-power flyer for 4 is nice. I like it. I think we'll be playing that a lot. Destructive Digger is 2 and a red for a 3/2 that has 3 tap, sacrifice an artifact or land, draw a card. All right, sacrificing lands to draw is really good. And the 3/2 for 3 is this baseline that we don't hate. We've seen ourselves play it with no abilities on occasion when our deck has forced us to. So you're not happy to play 3/2s for 3 with no ability, but this is a great ability. I like this a lot. It seems expensive and costly, but if you're on turn 10 and you got 7 lands out, you're going to be loving having this dude. Dragon Mage is 5 red for a 5/5 flying dragon wizard at uncommon. Whenever Dragon Mage deals combat damage to a player, each player discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. How is this not a rare? Weird. What a weird card to have it uncommon. I know it's bad. It's not even about power level, it's about the effect. I mean, yeah, not rarity decisions aren't just about power level. It's about the complexity of the actual mechanic. And can anybody remember any any lower than rare, any uncommon historically in modern? Is there a modern legal uncommon that says each player discards their hand, then draws 7 cards? I hear you. The card itself may not be super powerful or even super complicated, but this line of text is super powerful. And I'm just surprised that they would put this line of text on an uncommon. Is Dragon Mage a reprint that used to be rare? Yeah, that's a lot different, Double D's. That's what I expect. I'm glad you popped that up, because whenever a card deals combat damage to a player, discard all cards in your hand and draw that many is something I'm totally used to at Uncommon. But this set, anyway, let's move on. It's not that good of a card. However, if you have ramp, if you're like red-green ramp, I don't know, go ahead, play it. A scourge rare. Well, there you go. So at least I'm not crazy. Like, that line of text is rare. They just decided they could bring it down. I don't know. That's a weird one, R&D. What? Ember Hauler, red for a 2/2. And you can pay 1, sacrifice it, and it deals 2 damage to any target. So if you wait until you have the 1, this is basically 3 mana shock. But installment plan lets you attack and block with it for a little bit if you want. It's CC, so that is rough, but it's still worth playing because even a shock on turn 5 or whatever is going to have some value, and a shock with a reasonable body, even more so. Which one? I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm sure they exist, but you all hear what I'm saying. This is not something you expect to see as a line of text on an uncommon. Engulfing Eruption, 2 red. Sorcery. Engulfing Eruption deals 5 damage to target creature. Great. All right. 5 damage for 4 mana. Seems totally fair. Sorcery speed. Just a totally fair removal spell. Oh, not in boosters. Sorry. Oh, I keep forgetting to look. This totally fair removal spell will not be drafted by you. Fire Elemental, reprint, very generic beef. Sometimes you have to play generic beef, but you hope not to. You hope your 5-drops are a little better than vanilla 5/4s, but you gotta do what you gotta do, and sometimes you run this dude. I played more Fire Elementals in Dominaria than I'd care to acknowledge. Flame Sweep, 2 and a red, instant. Flame Sweep deals 2 damage to each creature except for creatures you control with flying. Interesting. So, even gets their flyers. I guess the flavor here is you've got a dragon, and your dragon is gonna aim at their flyers and whatever. It's 1 mana more for 2 damage to basically everything. Are we happy about that? It's instant speed. That means you can do some combat stuff on their turn, potentially combat stuff with first strike. Whenever I see is like, yeah, instant damage and first strike combines nicely in combat. I think this is going to be main deckable if it's not taking out a bunch of your stuff. Historically, the problem with things like Flame Sweep has been that red decks are playing a bunch of 2 toughness ground creatures, right? So, yeah, well, Fiery Cannonade was decent, but Fiery Cannonade was played alongside a bunch of pirates that were not damaged by it. So if you're doing a bunch of flyers, great. I would just say watch out for the non-bow of, oh, this kills all of my creatures. Do I really want to play it? Fry, 1 and a red for an instant. It cannot be countered, and Fry deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker that's white or blue. So more instant sideboard material. The art is indeed funny. Nice tip from Podcut. I'm going to leave it as is for now and just try to look. Yeah, sideboard, but a good one. Goblin Bird Grabber, 1 and a red for a 2/1 creature goblin. And you can pay a red and have Goblin Bird Grabber gain flying until end of turn. Activate this ability only if you control a creature with flying. It's another red card that seems to be caring about you having flyers. At its baseline, the vanilla test, it's a 2/1 for 2. Historically, we have not wanted to just run 2/1s for 2 into our decks, but sometimes it happens. But let's look out for... I mean, giving red activated 2-power flying doesn't suck. You just kind of have to be committed to that. Yeah, the art's funny. Bird Grabber. I like it. Goblin Ringleader is a reprint, 3 and a red for a 2/2. Haste. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all goblin cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. I believe this is a reprint from Invasion Block or around that parts. Is this new to Modern? I'm not sure it's good enough for Modern at 4 mana, but when revealing all of them is pretty strong. 2/2 haste for 2, though, not great. So for us to play this in limited, we're really going to need a ton of goblins. Oh, I know it's a reprint. I'm just wondering if it was already in Modern or if it is now in Modern because of M20. Anyway, I don't know if we're going to play this much. I mean, here's a goblin. I don't know what the goblin support really is. There's a goblin. Goblin. I guess they're kind of in on goblins. Seems like a lot of them. So maybe there's a goblin deck to be found here. You only need 1 before you're super happy. So if you do the math on that, if we want 1 to be happy and we're looking at the top 4, we need to have 10 other goblins in the deck before we're even on average gonna find one. So yeah, you need to be heavy goblin before you can expect to find anything off of this. Unlikely to happen, but maybe not impossible. A lot of goblins in the set, clearly. Goblin Smuggler, 2 and a red for a 2/2 creature goblin rogue at common. It has haste and tap another target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. Some inevitability for the goblin deck if it gets slowed down. Historically, this has been a smaller creature, like a 1/1 for 2, which doesn't have much use on its own. At least in this case, a 2/2 for 3, while obviously not powerful. It does have haste, so it can get in there surprisingly. But also, it just provides some surprising late-game inevitability. And then there's the classic trick of give your creature with power 2 or less unblockable, and then do something to make its power much larger. So, like Infuriate it. No, don't do that. You want... Wow. Infuriate kind of infuriates me. I don't like how close this is to Giant Growth. I think Giant Growth was already a oppressively good combat trick. Not oppressive. That's not fair. No combat trick is like oppressively good. It's just a high end of the combat trick market is Giant Growth, and here this is like almost a Giant Growth for red. That seems crazy good. I would expect like I kind of like the +3/+1 trample type ability for red, but how playable is this? We'll see how playable combat tricks are. I suppose if it's not super playable, it doesn't really matter. I think I can get defensive about the color pie and power creep when it doesn't really matter. Like the existence of Infuriate doesn't change Magic significantly, honestly. But for red, it's pretty good. And This is also what I mean about aggro decks needing to... They have a lot of redundancy, but they still need to draw it in the correct order, you know? So you want to be curving out on your creatures, but then having a little extra mana left over to sneak this in somewhere in your aggro strategy. Yeah, I'd be happy if it were just Titan Strength. That extra point of toughness is just like, that's a lot of toughness to give to red. Keldon Raider from Dominaria. Super solid card. It didn't have a huge home in Dominaria because of the nature of that format, but we'll see where it ends up here. Certainly being able to pitch a land you don't want anymore for a fresh card is nice, but not a high priority. You'll get these late. Lavakin Brawler is 3 and a red for a 2/4. Whenever Lavakin Brawler attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each elemental you control. Not bad for starting it as a 2/4, assuming... and it counts itself, so it attacks as a 3/4. It's a 2/4 that attacks as a 3/4, and then if you do anything else to help it, it's like a 4/4 or better. I'm in. I think this is fine. I think you want to be elementals, but assuming you're elementals, this is fine. I mean, even if you're not, like, it attacks as a 3/4. Now, we've not, you know, like, Ixalan had like 3/4s for 4 and stuff. They're not exciting, but the point is, it does not take much support to get Lavakin Brawler from to hey, that's a lot of attack power. Its toughness is never going up, though, so 4 power is always going to be able to trade with it unless Oppo does something extra. Maniacal Rage. I gotta get all of my various 2-mana red auras straight or I'll screw it up, but this one is the one that says it gets +2/+2 and can't block. There's sometimes it gives it menace, but it can block. I don't know. Anyway, this is +2/+2 and can't block. I don't advise playing these, and I advise punishing people who do. The times where these are playable are when there is a hyper-aggressive deck and the removal is so bad that the Maniacal Rage creature is likely to stick around a little bit, or if there's hexproof, you know, that can make this kind of thing good. But we're seeing murder at common, and that just does not seem like a world in which Maniacal Rage is a very welcome addition when you can murder stuff at common. So I would not be running that much. Mask of Immolation is 1 and a red for an artifact equipment at uncommon. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 red elemental creature token, then attach Mask of Immolation to it. Looks like we got a cycle going. Did I miss the... was there a blue one that I didn't... I remember there was a white one. I can't remember if I missed a blue one. Equipped creature has sacrifice this creature. It deals 1 damage to any target and has equipped 2. Yeah, there was a sword. I couldn't remember if there was anything in the middle color. Yeah, I guess we've done black and blue and there weren't ones, huh? Oh, what do we think of this? It's a 2/2 for 2 with upside, so it's fine. It's great. I like it. This is what I want a 2/2 to do. 2/2 for 2. Come down, do some stuff, then have a lot of value afterwards. This definitely does that. So I'm in. I like it. Nimble Bird Sticker. 2 and a red for a 2/3 reach. So this is just like kind of a reprint of the hybrid one that existed in Ravnica Allegiance. You really don't want this unless the reach is relevant, but if the reach is relevant, you could do a lot worse. I can't remember off the top of my head. I feel like we've seen a lot of 2/2 flying for 3, and 2/2 flying for 3 matches up horribly against this, so maybe it's positioned well in the format. The bird sticker can punish an opponent for running too many 2/2s for 3. Yep, I think Fnatic Guru nailed it. You want to draft this late and put it in your sideboard. Pack Mastiff. 1 and a red for a 2/2. So we're just getting strictly betters all over the place in terms of... Oh, wait, look. I forgot to look. That says 333 of 280, so Nimblebird's ticker will not be in packs to draft. But we're getting a whole ton of 2/2s for 2 with upside. And here, each creature you control named Pack Mastiff gets +1/+0 until end of turn. That's pretty cool. That's serious upside. Man, they're going nuts on these 2/2s for 2 with upside. I guess 2/2 for 2 is just so bad now that they can do this. I'm fine with it. This is a place where I'm okay with some power creep. Go ahead and take Grizzly Bears and make them interesting and good. How long until we start getting 2/3s for 2? Well, we have them already in green. If you're willing to, green has 2/3s for 2, but I think it'll be quite a while. I don't think they'll go there. I think you can go kind of nuts with 2/2s for 2 and be safe, but you can't really give non-green creatures extra power and toughness beyond kind of 4 total on a 2/2. Pyroclastic Elemental. 3 red. Oh, no, this is not draftable. We're going to skip it. This one is Rapacious Dragon. 4 and a red for a 3/3 flying uncommon dragon. And when it enters the battlefield, create 2 treasure tokens. Not bad. Let's see, you play this on 5 and you untap and play your 6th land and have as many as 8. If you're ramping to something or fixing, this is decent. I'm not super thrilled of a 3/3 flying for 5. We would rather see a 3/4, but it is we'll take it. This stat line 3/3 flying for 5 depends a lot on the cards around it. Like think about Ravnica Allegiance, where almost everything was a 3/3 flyer for 5 in terms of flyers, expensive flyers. You did not see a lot of high toughness flying. And suddenly that made like the courier was okay at 1/4 flying because it could block all those things. And if you did get one of the 4 toughness, like a 3/4, what was it, the Archway Angel or whatever, it could really own the skies. So how good this card is, my point is, the strength of this card is going to depend a lot on what the magic, power, and toughness numbers are in the air for the set. If there's a lot of 3/4 flyers going around, this card is bad. If all of the 5 mana flyers at common are in the 3/3 range, then this gets a lot better. You gotta have small dragons. That's all right. It's a baby dragon. Reckless Airstrike is a single red mana for a sorcery. Choose 1. Reckless Airstrike deals 3 damage to target creature with flying. So suddenly red is getting the green flyer damage stuff. That's weird. Or it can destroy target artifact. Fundamental question for us is, are we main decking this in best of 1? Maybe. There's a couple of good artifacts we've seen already. Those uncommon grizzly bear artifacts. I think we're going to try and not play this main deck, but if you had to, I think you could do worse. Reduced to Ashes. This is a weird one. Oh, no, this is not weird, because I was thinking back to the 4 damage, 4 mana deal 5, and I was like, why would they have 4 mana deal 5 and 5 mana deal 5? But they don't. The other one was not in boosters. So this is more along, this is what that card was going to be for the set, or would have been. And we have seen this be just okay. 5 mana is a lot. You're rarely going to get a mana advantage on a card like this, but it's also a lot of damage, and you're mostly going to kill everything you care about here, and the exile clause is nice. We've seen a lot of grave digging and otherwise ways to get value out of graveyard. So I think exiling instead of sending to graveyard is going to be a significant plus for cards in this format. That being said, this is just a kind of middle of the road. You're going to play these type removal. Ripscale Predator. 6/5 4 red for a 6/5 dinosaur at common, and it has menace. And it's not really a good card, but I remember sometimes in Ixalan it would come down and be like, oh, I guess I'm going to lose 2 creatures to kill that thing. So it does that sometimes. It's just so expensive, and if it hits on a crowded board, it can kind of feel like a 6-mana do-nothing, which is not what you want. But Menace on a 6/5 is somewhat like Death Touch on a 6/5. It's often going to cause Oppo to have to 2-for-1 themselves to block their way out of it. Yeah, if you need a finisher, you can play it, but hopefully you get some sweet rare flyer for 6 that is your big finisher, not a Ripscale Predator. Scampering Scorcher is 3 and a red for a 1/1. When Scampering Scorcher enters the battlefield, create 2 red 1/1 elemental creature tokens, and elemental creature tokens you control gain haste until end of elementals you control gain haste until end of turn. So effectively a 3/3 haste across 3 bodies, but we've noted that this format seems to really like tokens. There's a lot of things to do with tokens between sacrifice, go wide, blade brand, that kind of thing. But sometimes where a 3/3 could attack successfully, 3 1/1s cannot, so it does have that weakness. I would really be wanting to leverage the token side of this card before being really happy about playing it. And the haste also makes me want to be pretty aggro when I'm playing it, but then I think you can, it's pretty reasonable. Scorch Spitter. A 1/1 for a single red. It's an elemental lizard, and it's a common. Whenever Scorch Spitter attacks, it deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. So it attacks like a 2/1 from a player damage standpoint, but like a 1/1 from a interacting with other blocking creatures standpoint. That's a fair way to kind of split the difference on the classic 2/1 for a single red mana, and especially when you're putting it at common. I've been wary of this type of ability. I think the different, like, having this just simply be a 2/1 for a single red, full stop, would be better in the abstract. This is going to be better in some cases, like, yeah, attacking a planeswalker where you really need to ping it or whatever. But mostly, you just wish this had 2 power. That being said, if I am super low to the ground red aggro, I would consider playing this, I think. Maybe not, though. I feel like we had this in Ixalan. There was a black pirate that was something like this, right? Very, very similar thing. And it wasn't particularly playable in limited. It found some constructed playability, but I guess I'm kind of low on this, but we'll see if it can be a reasonable part of a high aggression red plan. Lost my mind. I hear you. I'm just saying, if you are hyper aggro red, you could think about it. But I'm just not liking it as a general case. Shock, however, we love. There are some formats where Shock hasn't been good, but mostly it's just been great. And you're going to, for 1 mana, take out something that costs them more than 1 mana. Play it. Love it. Rift. We call these falter effects because of the card Falter. And falter effects really do one thing, which is win you the game. But if you are playing an aggressive red deck, or an aggressive deck of red in anything, and you realize that you don't quite have any punch-through power, you don't have any dragons, you don't have any... Like, the thing you should be asking yourself with any aggro deck is, if they stabilize at 5 life, how do I finish them off, right? And most aggro decks need to have a good answer to that question. And Tectonic Rift is a fine answer to that question. We talk about what is the job of a card in your deck, and This does a very specific job. It unstalls boards and takes stalled board positions and turns them into wins. And you can't overload your deck with such abilities, or else they're doing nothing in the other times. But it's nice to have that available in an aggressive deck. Uncaged Fury is 2 and a red. Oh, I didn't even... The land part is whatever. Like, maybe you'll get something important with that. But I'm reading this as, like... It's almost like if you took Destroy Target Land off of this card, I don't think it would change my evaluation of it. Because it's never the difference between you playing the card or not. So it doesn't really matter. It's just sometimes it might come up in game as being relevant. Uncaged Fury, 2 and a red, is a reprint. Instant. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains double strike until end of turn. That can suddenly end a game. You attack with a 5/5 and they're at 12 thinking everything's fine, and they say no blocks and you just win. So it has that mode, but really it's also just primarily probably a combat trick. Giving a creature +1/+1 and double strike is likely to turn it from a trade into a win. So yeah, not only should you be thinking about how you can best maximize it for yourself, don't forget this as a possibility from an opponent with 2 and a red up. And make sure that if it's Uncaged Fury, you are okay with that result and that you have a plan. And I'm with you, Fanatic Guru. I like that card, but tricks should be few. And it can be, as far as your few tricks go, though, it's a decent one. Meanwhile, Unchained Berserker at 1 and a red for a 1/1 with pro white at uncommon, and it gets +2/+0 as long as it's attacking. So aggro anti-red from, or aggro anti-white from red. Human Berserker isn't super relevant. I don't like this in limited all that much. But honestly, if you're a turn sideways red deck, you may end up playing it. The thing is, like, we don't like 3/1 for 1 and a white, for example, is not a card we're excited to play, and we try not to. So it's hard to be too excited about this unless your opponent is white. Wildfire Elemental, 2 red, Elemental 3/3. Oh, nope, not draftable. All right, we're to the green. I'm going to finish my soup before I dive into the green. I should add a soup emoji. I'm gonna soapbox for just a sec on the side before we get back into green. Today is the first day of summer, not in the way you're thinking, not like we already had the solstice or whatever, but yesterday was the last day of Seattle public schools. So my kids are home now. They're teenagers, so they may be getting up soon. But it kind of changes what I can do stream-wise, because now I don't have any obligations in the morning of getting my kids to school and stuff. So I could even start streaming earlier. I thought about coming on and doing the set review before drafting today, but I didn't want to surprise anyone. Oh yeah, Guru, I don't know how it is around the country elsewhere, but I know that Washington, or at least Seattle public schools, have added extra vacation during the year to shorten the summer so that kids don't have such a long time between exposure to school. I think they were finding that students were forgetting everything over the summer, like stuff they needed to, especially high school students, like they needed to build on their education. And by being out for 3 months or whatever, they were just falling. There was too much recovery time at the beginning of a new year. Anyway, so I'm curious if there's anybody who has thoughts about, I may, just as a fair warning, I may start the stream earlier here and there, but if I do, it'll be to do goofy stuff that's not drafting. I'm going to continue to wait until 9 o'clock to start our first draft or whatever. But now that I can get up and roll out of bed and do whatever I want whenever I want without worrying about getting kids to school or whatever, just know that I may hop in earlier than usual for the summer here and there. Nice Stratic. Month vacation for you. Oh, I also wanted to, before I go back to the card, it was pretty obvious that my starting song of the week theme was 3-letter acronyms songs, but I Wooburged it. I don't know if you all saw that I did manage to figure out how to Wooburg it. It's just let's call it a loose Wooburg on my starting soon song of the day, because we had LDN, which stands for London, and there's not much whiter than London, right? AFK, it implies that you're going to leave and come back, which I felt was very blue, AFK is a very bounce spell kind of acronym. DNA, if you look at DNA, of course, that seems very Simic, but the band is the Kills, and if you listen to the song and listen to this band, the Kills are like the most black aligned band out. You got to get death metal before you get more black sounding than the Kills. And then IOU, and IOU is a very red thing, right? I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today is very much red thinking. And then TKO is a boxing term, right? It's a punching term. And what color punches? Anyway, I was really proud that I found a way to Wooburg even this TLA theme. So, okay. Enough of that, though. We'll get back to the action here. Nubble Light, I sold you on the sandwich maker, huh? It's good stuff. Marshall was asking me more questions about it this morning, and he's made a couple sandwiches since, I guess. All right, let's look at green. Barkhide Troll is a 2/2 for green at uncommon, but it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. So it is effectively a 3/3 for 2. Very good. 1, remove a +1/+1 counter from Barkhide Troll. Barkhide Troll gains hexproof until end of turn. Clever design, I like it. Really wants you to be green. And I like this is an interesting application of hexproof. Activated hexproof is interesting. One-time activated hexproof, I like it. How high are we going to draft this? Green is pretty oppressive, so it's not often going to be a 2-drop. It almost feels a little bit more constructed-y to me because of that. But if you're playing 10 forests, this is pretty reliable for 2. Pretty reliable, not hugely. That's right. Barkhide. If you activate it, it becomes Barkless Troll. Yeah, I'm not sure how high to take it. I don't think we're going to take it early, but if you're locked into green, you're fine on, turn 5, you play this and some other 3-drop. That's good too. Brightwood Tracker is 3 and a green for a 2/4, which I don't like right off the bat, but 5 and a green to tap. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is a very controlling card. This is you saying that you're going to win the late game. So if you're doing that, I think it's playable. 2/4 is pretty unimpressive, but this is this is way better than Grizzly to me. Like, oh, you think Grizz is better, Stratic? No. I mean, Grizz is 2/3, which blocks a lot worse than a 2/4. Yeah, whatever. You're not doing Grizzly or Tracker until you've got, like, if you're activating Grizzly before turn 8 or whatever, you're kind of sad. It means you ran out of things to do. Grizzly is a 3-drop, yes, but as a 3-drop, how does it get you to the late game where you're going to be able to actually do the thing? 3 toughness is a lot worse at getting you to the late game than 4 toughness. What are you worried about 6 mana and tapping for? If you're going to get to the late game, if your goal is to get to the late game, then this is way better than Grizzly. Like, how are you comparing? Like, Grizzly is a 3-drop that never hits. Like, not never. I know it not never, but like, you get 4 times the cards to look at to find something. I think this card is way better than Grizzly for that. Grizzly sits around as a 2/3, waiting for you to randomly get lucky and maybe find a creature. This, and I'm not saying this is great, but just as a comparison to Grizzly, I would much rather have this in a vacuum than Grizzly. Wait, Queen Dragon, you're saying Grizzly is better because at 6 mana you're just spinning and wasting? What? Are you all that are supporting the Grizzly? You do remember the Grizzly looks at 1 card, right? 1 card! One card. 1 card from the Grizzly. 4 cards from this. 1 card versus 4 cards. Yeah, but you're doing, you can, whereas Stratic is just all the time hitting with Grizzly and then casting it? No. You do this at the end of their turn. Infinitely better, no. But I would call this better than Grizzly, yes. For the decks that are trying to make it to the late game and win the late game. Where are we going to take it? Not early. We're going to take this late. We're going to probably get this on the wheel. I'll take this 7th through 10th and put it into my controlling green decks. Yeah, I think I mean, remember, I was just comparing Grizzly versus this. I think, but Queen says, yeah, but 6 every turn is devastating. It's your whole turn. Well, let's think about average results. So I activate Grizzly 4 times for 16 total mana versus, 1 time 6 mana. And the thing about being worried about 6 mana is so much. Yeah, but in the late game, mana sinks it doesn't matter how much a mana sink is. You're just happy to put mana anywhere. Like, 6 mana seems like a lot until you've got 8 of it and no cards in hand. And then you're like, oh my god, Brightwood Tracker is the best card in my deck right now. It's your whole turn, but when your whole turn without it was just going to be to draw a land and pass, how about having a whole turn where you draw a land, play it, and then find a creature, right? You know, it's just like, it's your whole turn, but at a time in the game where you weren't doing anything anyway, and it suddenly turns your whole turn into a relevant thing instead of a nothing turn. So, and I'm talking about it in its late game context where it's good. I want to reiterate that we don't think this is a great card. We're not looking to take this early or anything, but I think got to get your head around the fact that 6 mana for a late game mana sink is no big deal. Doesn't matter at all. The point of this ability is to use it when you couldn't do anything else anyway. So we'll see how that plays out, but I think I predict that we will be playing this more often and more happily than we ever did play the Grizzly. Centaur Courser is a reprint, the old 3/3 for 3. Fine. Stratic is completely correct when he says, again, I don't know the meta enough to value it correctly. I don't know the meta enough to value it correctly either. I do know Magic enough to compare it against Grizzly, though, which is what I was trying to do, and to talk about when it would be good. which is late game mana sinks for controlish decks. Controlish creature heavy decks. Feral Invocation is a reprint, and this is a good one. 2 and a green for a flash aura. So enchanted creature gets +2/+2, but it's a flash. So it's like a +2/+2 combat trick for 3, but then the power toughness boost sticks around. That's a very good combat trick. As with any combat tricks, watch out what you're casting it into, what kind of open mana and card situation you're facing. But if you can land this in a combat, you're going to win combat and then have a real beast afterwards. Yeah, Tenno, I love this card for because I don't like auras and I don't like combat tricks, but when you combine them together like this, then I'm in. Because then I get the combat trick value and the aura value on the same card. Ferocious Pup. 01. When Ferocious Pup enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. Okay, so you can play the pup and it brings mom. You could have designed this as Protective Mama, 2 and a green, 2/2 wolf. When Protective Mama enters the battlefield, create an 01 green wolf creature token. This is just begging to be sacrificed, though, right? Blinked or sacrifice is what we're doing here. Y'all know I love dogs, but come on. This isn't a dog. It's a piece of fake digital cardboard. And yeah, I'm going to sack this at the first opportunity. Come here, puppy. Come here. Good boy. Good boy. Look over there, mama. Hey, Rocket. Gifted Paradise we have seen. More life gain. A lot of incidental life gain in the set. Feels like everybody's going to be at like 25 life-ish. Enchant land. And yeah, it adds a double. It does the double fixing thing. It's like Horizons, except... yeah, I love this card too. It's good. Fun, janky ramp towards, helps you live, helps you ramp, helps you fix. Fun ramp spell. But make sure you want to ramp and fix before you play this. You just want to throw this into green decks. You really want to be trying to get somewhere and playing 3 or more colors. This Gnarlback Rhino is not in the set. For reals, Greenwood Sentinel is a 2/2 Vigilance. Wow, this is really bad. Look at it. Given all of the excellent upsides we've seen on 2/2s for 2 in non-green colors, it's pretty disappointing to see something as weak as just Vigilance on a 2/2. I mean, what does that even matter? Like, you attack and then they decline to trade, and then you trade on the way back. I don't know. Gnarlback has 300 out of 280, which means it's part of a Planeswalker deck. Yeah, I don't like Greenwood Sentinel at all, and we're not going to take it that much. Although it's funny, there's a neighborhood good friends of mine live in right near my neighborhood called Greenwood. There's a Greenwood neighborhood in Seattle. It makes me think of someone paranoid guarding the entrance to Greenwood neighborhood or something. Growth Cycle is 1 and a green for an instant at common. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. It gets an additional +2/+2 until end of turn for each card named Growth Cycle in your graveyard. I mean, often the thing with combat tricks is the difference between +3/+3, +5/+5, and +7/+7 is not usually that big a deal in creature combat. But Growth Cycle threatens to kind of kill some people out of nowhere. Make sure you know how many Growth Cycles are in your opponent's graveyard before you decide what to block. That being said, as far as tricks go, it's fine. But you know me, I'm not too into combat tricks. They just produce too many spots where they're very high risk to even bother trying to cast. The blowout risk is too high in a lot of cases. Healer of the Glade is a 1/2 for green, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. Oh, this is going to be... I'm calling it now. This is your new... what's the grazer? This is your grazer. This is the trap card that's going to cause lots of newish players to build poor decks. You got to have insano life gain synergies before this is even close to playable. So congratulations to all of you who are watching this. You are either already good enough to know not to play this, or you're learning it now, and you can get some free wins off of the many people you're going to be facing in the next 3 months who play Healer of the Glade, as though it's a real card. Howling Giant is 5 green for a 5/5 creature giant druid at uncommon. It has reach. Another creature that doesn't look like it has reach that has reach, so I'll try not to attack into that. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 2/2 green wolf creature tokens. I'm in. That's 9 power and toughness across 3 creatures for 7 mana with reach. This is the kind of thing you might want to ramp into. A lot of value here, but this is the kind of place where you want to go with a card like Gift of Paradise. I mean, where you really want to go is some bonkers rare or mythic, but assuming you don't get the bonkers rare or mythic, Howling Giant is a reasonable place to be going to with your ramp. Leafkin Druid is 1 and a green for an 0/3 that taps for a green, and if you control 4 or more creatures, add green instead. So this goes right along. Here's another place to ramp to with Leafkin. Leafkin is never going to suddenly become a relevant creature on offense or whatever. You know, we look at something like Paradise Druid. I like Paradise Druid because it's a 2/1. It does its ramp thing, and then when it's done ramping, it can actually be pretty good as a decent 2-power creature. And Leafkin Druid does not end up being anything relevant at any point unless you're working the elemental synergies. So yeah, it's fine. And I think you're going to play ramp and creature-based ramp. But yes, I'm with Logan that I would rather just have add green for a 1/3 rather than even having this green text, just to get some relevancy out of this creature's body after it's done doing its ramping. But we're still going to play it. I think green decks, assuming you want to ramp, again, you got to have a place to go with your extra mana or it's not really worth it. Loaming Shaman is 2 and a green for a 3/2. I believe this is a reprint. When Loaming Shaman enters the battlefield, target player shuffles any number of target cards from their graveyard into their library. That second clause is not going to come up too much. And I think for the most part, we hope to not play this card. But as we've seen, sometimes you end up with a 3/2 for 3 in your deck that you wish wasn't there. And if this ends up being that one, then maybe you'll find some use for the ETB. The 2 basic uses are ETB your good stuff back in so you draw it, or ETB their stuff that they might recur through graveyard recursion. Oh, this used to be a rare? What a terrible rare. Mammoth Spider is 4 and a green for a 3/5. We've seen this many times now, and I've been really impressed at how much better 3/5 reach for 5 is over, say, the classic 2/4 reach for 4. Mammoth Spider critically has 5 toughness, which I mean we've seen a little bit of 4 power flying here, but a lot of sets have 4 power flyers at uncommon, and Mammoth Spider is such a house against the 4 power flyers. So let's keep an eye out for 4 power flyers to understand really how good Mammoth Spider is, but mainly the ability to get in the way of the 3 and 4 power flyers is great. Might of the Masses is another reprint. We've seen this. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature you control. It's only a green mana. A lot of the time this is going to be a giant growth, and a lot of the time it's going to be even better. So this is a combat trick I can get behind. I think you're going to be happy with this much of the time as far as combat tricks go. And they can be game winners too. If you go wide tokens and get anything through and they're tapped out and it's like, target creature gets +9/+9 until end of turn, what you going to do? Yeah. Natural End is 2 and a green for an instant. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. You gain 3 life. In general, I'd rather just have a naturalize than the life gain tacked on, but it's still just a sideboard card that you may bring in. But make sure they have... I want to see one amazing target plus some other stuff, right? I hate bringing this in because I saw one good thing. But if you see multiple good things or one amazing thing and some okay things, then you can bring in a naturalize effect. Netcaster Spider, another reprint, 2 and a green for a 2/3 reach at Spider, and when it blocks a creature with flying, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So we saw the Snare Spinner doing this at 1/3, and for Netcaster Spider does this for 1 extra mana at 2/3 instead. So it's very similar to Snare Spinner, except I think Snare Spinner is quite a bit better. The difference between dealing 4 and dealing 3 to flyers tends not to be that significant, and the difference between casting this on turn 1 versus turn 2 is pretty big. This, as 2 power, can attack naturally for a much better effect than the Snare Spinner did, so this is a much better natural attacker. But given that you're putting spiders in your deck for their defensive capabilities anyway, I would rather just have a Snare Spinner, but we're still going to play the Netcaster Spider. Just like Snare Spinner, there will be times where you have this on the battlefield and your opponent is going to be sitting there with 4 flyers going, I can't do anything. I can't do anything because of this dumb spider. And they're just, so it can end up being a very important card in your deck. Overcome. Where's Marshall? Somewhere Marshall is like, For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Marshall often would rail against overrun type effects in Limited. And Overrun, the original card, is 2 green for creatures you control get +3/+3 and trample until end of turn. So what do we think about 3 green for +2/+2? Probably still good enough. Overrun was stupid good. Overrun, there were 2 things that happened with Overrun. You cast it and won the game right then and there. Or you would cast it, and after lining up all the blocks that they needed to make just to not die, the dust settles, and you've got 5 creatures to their 2, and you win the turn after. So maybe +2/+2 produces a situation where Oppo can make enough good blocks and take little enough damage to actually overcome in a way that you couldn't overcome Overrun. But I still think this is going to be a powerful card that we play. Although we didn't we have, what was the the one in War doesn't give trample, right? I mean, that's the key. We just saw this effect in War, and we never play it, we never see it, and we never I barely remember what it does because of that. But that's the key. If you're not giving them trample, then it's not worth playing. But as soon as you give everything trample, then you can be in on this. Is it a first pick? I don't know. We'll find out how good it is, but it's definitely better for the game than Overrun was. Overrun was too oppressive. Yeah, Run Over would have been a good play on that one. Blackadder. Overgrowth Elemental is 2 and a green for a 3/2 at uncommon. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on another target elemental you control. So you can't do it self, but it's part of Elemental Tribal here. And whenever another creature you control dies, you gain 1 life. If that creature was an elemental, put a +1/+1 counter on Overgrowth Elemental. So this seems fine. Only in an elemental deck. I mean, if you're not in an elemental deck, it's barely better than the 3/2 for 3 that we've seen with vanilla text. But even another creature you control dies, you gain a life. So the the extra life gain is gonna, you know, whatever. It's solid. It makes it better than just a 3/2. So, but if you're playing the elemental deck, you're gonna love this, and it'll be pretty obvious, and you'll windmill slam it and be happy about it, right? I mean, it's just a baseline, decent rate with a lot of upside in the elemental deck. Plummet is a reprint we've seen many times. One of the ongoing questions of cards like this is, do you main deck them? You're gonna have to see how the format shakes out a little bit. What percentage of the time are we facing flyers, and do you have ways to beat flyers without it? You may be in a spot where it's like, well, this could be a dead card, but if I'm not playing against flyers, I really love my chances. Like, so this is good to main deck when you're like, flyers are my Achilles heel. Flyers are how I'm going to lose with this amazing deck. Then go ahead and main deck it. Because then if they don't have the flyers, maybe you've mulliganed, but it probably means your deck is doing its amazing thing without worrying about it. Pulse of Marasa, another reprint, 2 and a green for an instant. Return target creature or land card from a graveyard to its owner's hand. You gain 6 life. That 6 life ended up being so much that it played out much better than it seemed in its first time around in Battle for Zendikar block. And again, if you're doing a controlling, grinding thing, like the Pulse of Marasa probably is going to end up in a lot of decks that I have with the Brightwood Tracker. Like Brightwood Tracker, Pulse of Marasa are on kind of the same plan in terms of let's go late, let's stay alive, let's recur value, get back a Gravedigger with this, and, you know, doing lots of fun stuff. So, also it's an instant. It's kind of weird that it's an instant, because this type of effect is very much usually a sorcery. And one of the things instant allows you to do is play other instants and decide what you do before the end of the turn. So, oh, not in that set. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Logan. But anyway, played much better than it looked in Battle for Zendikar, and so I'm expecting it to play much better than it looks in a core set as well. Rabid Bite, fantastic removal spell. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Kind of like a sorcery speed. You know, we have the instant band together. Band together at instant speed at 3, maybe a little better because you get to choose 2 creatures, but 2 mana, no joke. You can really fit this in a lot of places that you were not able to fit in band together, and it can really contribute to a difficult to stop start from a green deck. You know, green deck opens up on some highly efficient creatures, and on turn 5, Rabid bites something and then plays another 3-drop. Yeah. Man bites dog. It's great. And so much better than fight. Punching is so much better than fight. Season of Growth, 1 and a green for an enchantment at uncommon. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. And whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a card. Green-white auras, maybe? Yeah, it feels like maybe this is a trap. Certainly the scry 1 on ETB is not good enough. So then at that point, it's a build around. A build around where we are doing a lot of auras and combat tricks. What I like is the aura thing. But yeah, it feels like a trap. It's maybe playable, Logan, but you need some really high synergy. You really want to be taking heavy advantage of this second line of text to ever play this card. And you don't want to be putting yourself in a spot where you're like, well, I'm just going to giant growth my creature so I draw a card. Like, I think that's a trap type of situation. And yeah, I'm with you, Queen. I raise my eyebrow at white-green strategies in general. Historically, if white-green hasn't been go-wide tokens, it hasn't been very good. And even sometimes when it's been go-wide tokens, it hasn't been very good. But there have been formats where there's been enough pump for go wide that green-white is great. And there have been formats where you could go wide, but then you couldn't do anything with it. That's kind of like what happened with Selesnya in Guilds of Ravnica, for example. Nope, we're closing in on it, though. Sedge Scorpion for 1/1 Death Touch. I was talking about how I much prefer the black cheap Death Touchers, since green tends to have big beef of its own. It's not usually as desperately in the market for Death Touch as black is. That being said, it's still a 1/1 Death Toucher for 1, which I'm largely going to play every time. It just is always going to get its man, you know? Silverback Shaman, 3 green for a 5/4 Ape Shaman with Trample. And when it dies, draw a card. At common! I am so in on this. Woo! That's everything I want. Look at that. What a beautiful looking 5-drop. Is Silverback Shaman a reprint? I don't know if Silverback Shaman is a reprint. I'm no LSV when it comes to Let's Stump Vargas. Yeah, compare this to our old friend Fire Elemental. Fire Elemental is just a 5/4. This one gives you trample, and when it dies, draw a card. Granted, it's green, not red, but what a difference. We're going to test out how many 5-drops we're willing to play, because I think I would play up to 4 of these if there was nothing else going on in my 5s, and I was an aggressive style green deck. Thicket Crasher is 3 and a green for a 4/3 trample. And other elementals you control have trample. Super solid. 3 toughness means it's going to trade a lot, so it's not like, you know, you're going to get traded off here, but 4/3 for 3 for 4 is worth it, especially if you're playing the elemental thing and you're giving other stuff trample. But it's not amazing. You're just going to draft and play this because it's fine. It's a common. It's a fine little common. Oh yeah, this is Silverback Shaman is much better. Hey, Brontodon seeing reprinting. That's good. This card's amazing. This is where I like to get. This is how I like to main deck my artifact and enchantment removal, right? Just get a nice 3/4 for 3, and then if you need to, kill something even more important. But Brontodon is great. I'm liking the green. A lot of efficient green here. Veil of Summer is an instant for a single green mana. Draw a card if an opponent has cast a blue or black spell this turn. Spells you control can't be countered this turn. You and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and from black until end of turn. Wow. I like this. I mean, sideboard and kind of almost constructed. My mind is drifting to constructed here a little bit. Hey, Rob, thanks for the sub. I don't have my the stuff triggering in this particular view. I think I can do this though. Here you go.
Some say I never heard of ya, a rap burglar.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that part is okay, Tenno. Like, people know what hexproof is. That's why I liked this as a replacement for protection, that people get this very easily. But yeah, let's see. Are we playing this in limited? I think we might bring this in against heavy black removal. But only that. Only if they're playing a ton of black removal. And then it's just going to be okay, you know? I mean, man, what a blowout, right? If your opponent goes to murder your creature and you veil in response, you get to draw the card and then save the creature. I think it's definitely playable out of the board, but you're never going to main deck it. It's too dead against... It's dead against 3 colors, so you're never main decking this, but it's going to be very... Very solid sideboard card against the black removal matchup. That's not a real card for packs. Vorst Claw is 4 green for a 7/7 no text. No thanks. I mean, power creep, I guess. Like, this was 7/6 a set ago. The worm is getting tougher. But I don't think the 7 matters almost at all in terms of how you assess the card. You're going to play it whenever you'd play the worm. Which is sometimes. Wolfkin Bond is a reprint 4 and a green for an aura at common. When it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token, and enchanted creature gets +2/+2. So this is like +2/+2 worth of haste, and then a 2/2 body. This has proved to be solid. It still has aura problems, although you kind of get half card out of it. If they do something to destroy the bond or the creature it's on, you did get a 2/2 wolf. So I find this to be quite playable. Solid. But not amazing. At 5 especially. Yeah, the equipment's better, I agree. Wolf Rider's Saddle. Here it is. 3 and a green. When Wolf Rider's Saddle enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token, then attach Wolf Rider's Saddle to it. And it's a 1/1 bonus, and it can't be blocked by more than one creature with an equip 3. So you start with a... I liked that these other auras had cheaper equip costs. On limited resources, they talk about a lot how really in assessing equipment, you want to check that equip cost, because if it's really going to be clunky for you to move it elsewhere, it really impacts its effectiveness as a card. So I'm not thrilled about a 3/3 token that can't be blocked by more than one creature, and I'm not thrilled about having to pay 3 to put it somewhere else. So yeah, I don't know. These are kind of close, really. But I guess I like the ability to re-equip. So Wolf Rider's Saddle is probably going to be better for you in the long run than Wolfkin Bond, but they're close. Yeah, the white one, this has the equip 3, just kind of makes this just so. Woodland Champion, 1 and a green for a 2/2 Elf Scout at uncommon. Whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, put that many +1/+1 counters on Woodland Champion. So we've seen that there are some counters in this format. So this has a lot of upside for that. You don't really just want to be playing 2/2s for 2. So hopefully you're playing a bunch of counters when you play this card. And if you are, I think you're going to be happy. You only need 1 counter to hit before you think you're really ahead. And then, man, play 2 or 3 counters and you're just doing it. Uh-oh. So sad. Woodland Mystic, here to make everybody sad. Oh, but it's not even played. Okay, so it doesn't matter. Not in the set, but still kind of funny. They're just like, sorry, Land of War Elves, suck it. All right, we're into gold. We're going to finish up gold here and then wrap up this stream and wrap up this set review. Empyrean Eagle, 1 white blue for a bird spirit 2/3 flyer. Other creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. Well, there's your signpost uncommon, huh? Could have started down here in the signpost uncommon, I guess, but the blue-white skies deck could not be clearer. Yeah, I know, we got some stuff below, but won't be too much. Tomebound Lich is 1 blue black for a 1/3 Death Touch lifelinker, and whenever Tomebound Lich enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, then discard a card. So we loot on ETB, and we loot upon combat damage to a player. Looting ain't no card drawing, but we do love our looting. So I think I'm in just on a, I think I'd be in on a 1/3 Death Touch lifelinker. So it's fine. This is, yeah, decent, right? It's just like, it's not in your face insane, but this is just a solid package of stuff. Logan notes that it's not a May ability, which is good. You should always loot anyway, so let's force people to loot. And yeah, sending in is good because they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. So yeah, I'm happy. This seems great as a signpost uncommon for that color pair. 2 black-red for Ogre Siegebreaker as a 4/3 with the activated ability 2 black-red, destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn. Well, it's difficult to make that happen, and it's right on board. I mean, I said up above, I was okay with, we had a 4-mana 4/3 Trampler in green, and I thought that was okay. So it's okay. This is okay, but this is going to be a hard thing to pull off, I think. Yeah, I think okay is your rating on this one. If you get some value out of this, congrats. It's not going to be easy. But if you're black-red, you're going to play a 4/3 for 4. It's just not, you're not just going to windmill slam this and be like, oh, sweet, black-red is open and we're going to do it. Yeah, you'll take it when you're already there, but it's not going to push you into red-black. Yeah, Stratic. If you can get repeat pinging, then I like this a lot more. We'll see if there's any of that. I didn't notice any. I guess there was one pinger that it required like death or something like. Oh, maybe that was Modern Horizons I'm thinking of. Yeah, never mind. That's Modern Horizons. Creeping Trailblazer is red and a green for a 2/2 elemental at uncommon. Other elementals you control get +1/+0. Okay, I mean, I'm liking it. And 2 red-green. Creeping Trailblazer gets +1/+1 you control until end of turn for each elemental you control. Signpost uncommon indeed. So green-red is the elemental deck, and this is your linchpin. This is really great. Pretzel Crisps thinks I'm underrating how the Ogre Siegebreaker will impact combat, and that's fair. If you have a bunch of weenie token type stuff, suddenly you have a really impressive threat of activation. So that's a fair comment. I still don't think you're gonna like just go into it because of that, but it does. Maybe I'm underrating it, and it'll play out better than it appears. Anyway, back to the Trailblazer. I just love this. I think. This is going to make me want to make elementals happen. Viking asks, how's instant destroy work mid-combat? Get in first strike damage? Yeah, obviously this is great with first strike because then they just can't do anything. But mainly I think the comment is, suddenly your 2/2 for 2 doesn't look so shabby against their sea of 5/5s if you know you're going to be able to basically for 4 mana trade your 2/2 for something bigger. Ironroot Warlord, 1 green white for a star 5 at uncommon. Ironroot Warlord's power is equal to the number of creatures you control. This is interesting. I like star 5 over star because a lot of the power and toughness creature you control, they die before you can get them where you want them to be. This is nice that it gives you a nice high toughness to really build up this power. And then it has a second ability, 3 green white, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. So this is going to come down on 3, be at least a 1/5, and that's a house on defense on 3. And then if you can go late, you're really going to like this ability. Although here's where it's like, now you're in competition. Are you going to spend 6 mana to look at 4 and find a card, or are you going to make a token? But the floor of a 1/5 for 3 mana makes this a very nice card to me, and I love this mana sink. So I have some hope. Maybe white-green will actually be playable here. That seems that's a good ability right there. And it seems like white-green needs stuff this powerful to get it to compete with what other colors are doing in Limited. So, Corpse Knight, white and a black for a 2/2 zombie knight. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. I like that more than gain. This is one of those cards that doesn't seem like much, and then suddenly becomes must kill because you just know you're going to lose to it if you don't kill it soon. So I'm liking the Corpse Knight. I think that's a solid card. I mean, it's just a 2/2 for 2 though, and it's a hard to cast one. So keep that in mind. And also got to see what they're doing. It's funny because it seems like white black is lifelinky, and they didn't make this one gain life. So Rob says, I have a question about first picking gold cards. How powerful does the card need to be, and what does the rest of the pack need to look like? Deep questions. It's just got to be case by case. I think it's about, I mean, if you wanted to get super mathy, or at least not that we can actually come up with the math, but in terms of theoretical math, like, what percent of the time are you actually going to play the gold card that you first picked? And then what is the strength of its power? Like, how powerful is it? So if I'm going to play it 60% of the time that I draft it, and it's got a power level of 10, it's kind of the math of that power is like 60%, right? Because 60% of 10 is 6, so it's like a score of 6. And then, whereas, let's say there was a single color removal spell that's just a straight up 7, and you're going to be much more likely to play it, then maybe you just take the removal spell. But if the pack is weak, then you go ahead and take that chance. So I know that you can't really do the math that way, but that is how I conceptualize it. Like, I have an N% chance of this power level being in my deck versus an X% chance of this power level being in my deck. And that's the fundamental question you're asking yourself. The hard part is coming up with numbers for X and N and whatnot that make sense, but that's how I think about it. Pretzel says, appreciate the content. Hope you don't take my comments as gripes. Nah. Fiddle says, they said something about designing for enemy shards more than pairs. That makes these a little weird. Interesting. I don't know. Maybe they meant that at rare? Well, let's move on. That's another great point from Stratic. Whether or not to take a gold card, well, that's where the power level comes in, right? How powerful is that card? And part of the power level of that card is going to be based on what we learn about the color pairs in the set. Lightning Stormkin is blue-red for a 2/2 flying haste at uncommon. Full stop. What does that tell us? Is red-blue trying to be aggro skies? Aggro? What? Maybe sometimes it's not always a signpost. It just might be an efficient little uncommon package that you can play and be happy with. But that's a strong card. I'm not going to be like super excited to first pick that or something, but if I pick this up for red-blue decks I'm already in, I'm going to be super happy. Moldavine Reclamation, 3 black-green for an enchantment at uncommon. Whenever a creature you control dies, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Ooh, that's not non-token. It's John Locke's special here. We've got a 5 mana, truly a 5 mana do nothing. Pay 5 mana, nothing happens. That being said, you gain a life. It's not even like black where you lose a life and draw a card. You just straight up gain a life and draw a card. And we've seen some sack outlets in black. Man. Does nothing, but then kind of does everything. Or does a lot. I'm hoping to get some sack effects with this, and I'm not super keen to first pick it or anything, but I'm hoping to build around this. It looks like it has some good potential in a high creature deck. Scott Martin is explaining it. So there's 5 themes, and each spans 3 colors. I see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it does nothing and then you go into combat. That's a good point. Like, play this on 5 and attack with your trades. What you gonna do? Kind of like, it's kind of, what's the rare? The Midnight Rambler. It's not the Midnight Rambler, but you know what I'm talking about. So Moldavine Reclamation is like a Midnight Reaper that's hard to kill but doesn't attack or block. And you gain life instead of just losing it. Yeah, I'm excited. That looks like it's gonna be fun to play and build around. Sky Knight Vanguard, red and a white for a 1/2 flyer. And whenever Sky Knight Vanguard attacks, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token that's tapped and attacking. Too bad about the tapped and attacking part. It's still a nice card. We're still gonna play it in our Boros decks for sure. But 1/1s that enter tapped and attacking tend to be 1/1s that die. So making this so that now if you're on the play and get this on 2, they might not have defense ready, and you'll get a maybe get a couple of free 1/1s. But this would be a million times better with if it just made a 1/1 white soldier creature token. So I don't know if I'd call it a trap. But it also makes me want to play combat tricks. This is another place where when you get forced attackers, one of the secret advantages of forced attack is that people just play into combat tricks like nothing because it looks like you're just forced to do it, right? So I wouldn't call this a trap, but it's not as good as it might look, and it does ask you to be playing aggressive and probably playing some combat tricks so that you can really get them with that attacking soldier creature token. But I don't love it. Risen Reef, on the other hand, in the meantime, is a 1 green blue 1/1 elemental. Yeah, people were joking about that. Well, you got the scale birds that make it not insanely huge. And it's only made of coral, so like maybe the idea is it's pretty stiff and brittle, so you can defeat it pretty easily. The birds are in the foreground? How can you tell where those birds are? Whatever, you're gonna make flavor judging on Magic. Let's read this rules text. How about? Whenever Risen Reef or another elemental enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't put the card into the battlefield, put it into your hand. Okay. Great. I love it. I mean, I was like, maybe you need to be elementals. Even if it only said whenever another elemental enters, it would be. But I would play this as the only elemental in my deck. I mean, it's not amazing, but it replaces itself. It's either going to accelerate you, or it's going to... it's going to draw a card no matter what. And either it's going to accelerate you or just draw a card. So, I mean, if this said 1 green, blue, 1/1, ETB, draw a card, we'd be like, that's not great. Like, but we still might play it. It replaces itself, so it's not the worst, but it's not great. We expect to get a 1/1 that draws a card for 2 mana, not 3, right? But then you have all this other stuff that it triggers on other elementals, and if it's a land, you're actually ramping. And I think those two things just put it over the top enough to make this an actually quite a good card. But I think you do want to be trying to build around it with elementals to the best of your ability. I think if you just play this as the only elemental, you're going to be underwhelmed. But if you get a bunch of elementals around it, you're going to be very, very happy. Not sure how many blue elementals there were. I'm going to let you all go back and count them if you want. Hey, look. We are how many we got? We got well, there's quite a few artifacts, but we're close. Anvil Rot Raptor is a 4-mana 2/1 flying first strike. Full stop. That is too much to pay for a 2/1 flying first strike. I do like that it blocks, though. Like we saw the Aesthir Glider or whatever in Dominaria that was a 2/1 flyer for 3 that couldn't even block. How good is the first strike? You're not going to want to play this really that much. I think I would just rather have a 2/3 flyer. I just want that the flyer from the set from War over the Anvil Rot Raptor. Too easy to kill. So I think I like this less than a card we were trying not to play much of anyway. But maybe desperate, you'll play it. Colossus Hammer is a single mana for a equipment, and equipped creature gets +10/+10 and loses flying. I like the loses flying clause. I wish they had made a flying creature hold that. Wouldn't that be hilarious if there was like an Aven struggling with this thing in its beak? Total trap. Unless there's a way to put this onto creatures for free, we're never doing this. Yeah, that's good, actually. I was kind of making a joke, Fiddles, but I think you could have art directed, a Fanatic, that like the art direction on this could have been a Sarah Angel is walking on the ground swinging a giant hammer. Don't play it, though. Diamond Knight is a 3-mana 1/1 vigilance artifact, and when it enters the battlefield, choose a color. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen color, put a +1/+1 counter on Diamond Knight. So we're not happy with this card until we've cast 2 additional spells of the color, because a 2/2 vigilance for 3 is no big deal, is not good. But a 3/3 vigilance for 3 is, but generally a 3/3 vigilance for 3 would be good because you could cast it on turn 3 and attack for 3 on 4, which you're not really doing here. So I kind of don't like this. But I know that I'm going to lose to a 9/9 Diamond Knight before the end of the format. I don't like it, though. Diviner's Lockbox, 4 mana for an uncommon. 1 artifact, 1 tap, choose card name, then reveal the top card of your library. If that card has the chosen name, sacrifice the lockbox and draw 3 cards. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. Well, that seems awful. If you're not doing something to scry, this does not seem good. Because even if you're, let's say you're really doing it. You're really doing it. You've got scry up and down the block in your deck, and it's going to be pretty trivial to know what's on top of your library. Well, then what? So you've paid 4, and then 1 to finally draw 3? Right? I mean, in blue, you pay 5 and draw 3 anyway, so I just think the setup cost is way too hard here. That's a good point. Fnatic makes a good point that you can at least name basic land here, but it still feels like a trap. I agree. The ability to name basic land isn't enough because it's just. I mean, you're still paying a total of 5 to draw 3, and it's just not that great. And we have the problem with. I was talking yesterday about how I really like artifacts to have color, because then it lets you make them good. Like if you made this Diviner's Lockbox a blue artifact, you could do something that actually made it good. But you can't make this too good, or else every color in the universe gets amazing card draw. You think Diamond Knight will be a high pick? Maybe I'm underrating it. It depends on how fast the format is. If the format's super fast, it's not going to be good. If the format is slow, this could be fine. If the format is slow, this could absolutely end up being a 7/7 by the late game, and it really does some work. But let's see how fast the format is, and then we'll understand Diamond Knight a lot better at that point. I think the Knight will see play. I just don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's great. Heartpiercer Bow, 2 mana for some equipment, and when the equipped creature attacks, Heartpiercer Bow deals 1 damage to target creature defending player controls, and it equips for 1. This might be a decent sideboard card if you think they've got a lot of 1 toughness and just attacking and pinging stuff is going to be good. But I think I want to start this in the board. I don't think that the ping ability is going to be strong enough. There is the black card that deals kills a damaged creature, but I think that's fancy play syndrome. I think you still don't want to do that. Yeah, the red black common ogre, and there's the other one that ETBs to do it. I'm just like I still think it's too cute. I just don't think you want to do that. But maybe you get desperate and like some kind of engine like that is your best bet at winning, and then you can run an engine like that. But I don't think you're just excited to do weirdo Heartpiercer Bow damage a creature and then kill the damaged creature stuff. Feels too clunky. Yeah, we're just talking about that. It is fetchable. Yep. You can fetch a card you don't want in your deck if you want to do that. We'll see. I think it's a sideboard card. Manifold Key is a single mana for an artifact at uncommon. It has 1 and tap it to untap another target artifacts, and it has 3 and tap for target creature can't be blocked this turn. I'd rather have just a Falter spell, but I don't think we're playing this. It takes up a card. Like, what was the Hidden Passage? What am I thinking? That land that did this. Hidden Tunnel, something like that. Secret Passage, Secret Tunnel. In any case, this type of ability on a land, Rogue's Passage, thank you. Rogue's Passage was good because it was a land, and you could still cast spells with it. If this is on a land, I like it, but I don't want to include an entire spell card in my deck dedicated to that ability. But yeah, Stratic says in a green deck. I think in a green deck you would still want this out of the board. Fnatic Guru likes it because it's a game ender. It's just kind of a mulligan until the end of the game, though. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong about Manifold Key. I seem to be a little lower on it than Guru, at least. But I just hate having to spend a spell slot on this ability. Marauder's Axe. We've seen this. It's just whatever. Probably not playing much Axe, but if you got a lot of tokens, turning them into 3/1s is decent. Yeah, this is not bad. This is not unplayable. It's just that it doesn't bump toughness at all. So it goes best with like first strikers and tiny stuff that you want to make relevant. If you don't have first strike or tiny stuff you want to make relevant, or flyers, Marauder's Axe on evasive creatures is quite a clock. But basically, not playing it unless it's really synergistic with how I'm trying to win the game. Meteor Golem is a 7-mana 3/3, and when it enters the battlefield, you destroy a target non-land permanent an opponent controls. Very good. 2 for 1 every time. And 7 mana is a lot, so make sure you can cast 7 mana spells, but especially if you're in green or in ramp, you're going to really like Meteor Golem. It's a high pick. If you're in green ramp, it's just like a first pick. Pattern Matcher is 4 mana for a 3/3 and artifact creature golem, and when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a card with the same name as another creature you control, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Interesting. Kind of want to do this at some point with some rare I got lucky on 2 copies of, but mostly I think you're not going to play this. One of the problems... Let's say you have a couple things, like you want multiple things with 2 copies at least before you play this, because if you only have like 1, you risk drawing both before you have the pattern matcher, and then it's bad. But it's a 3/3 for 4, so its floor is a hill giant. I just am not happy with the hill giant these days, so I really want to be getting some synergy value out of the ability before I consider running this card. Mostly useless, but in the right deck, in a very certain deck, I could see running one. Prismite, we tried not to run, had to run it sometimes when you were desperate for a 2-drop, but I never even really ran it as something. I would never run this as fixing and be like, okay, now I can make that splash. I would just rather not do the splash. But if you need a 2/1 for 2, there it is. Retributive? Is that how you say that? Retributive Wand. 3 mana for an artifact, and it says 3 and tap. The wand deals 1 damage to any target. 3 mana pinger, and then when the I don't even want to say it anymore. When the wand is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, it deals 5 damage to any target. That is clunky, but it's any target. I mean, this with the ogre, you need 7 mana, but then it's quite an engine, yeah. I can't figure out how good this is. I think throwing 1 damage around is pretty powerful. You can hide this in your hand at 6 mana and finish something off. I think we have to see. I don't think it's going to be amazing. Fiddle says meh. I think its ceiling is good. But the question is, where is this from not, kind of bad to good? I could see this being anywhere along the spectrum. May end up being a sideboard card where you bring in against one toughness creatures, because obviously it's great there. Against tokens, you could start mowing down tokens. So we'll see. And if they deal with it, deals 5 to any target. I'll probably start by running it and seeing if it's any good, and then take it out if we learn that it's not that good. Salvager of Ruin is 3 mana for a 2/1 at uncommon, and you can sacrifice it. Choose target permanent card in your graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn. Return it to your hand. Yeah, well, that's a decent ability, but 2/1 for 3? I can't get behind that. I think this is not really playable. Sidebar says likes Pattern Matcher more than me. I want to be clear that I don't think a 3/3 for 4 is good enough. If all, you know, what percentage of the time am I getting that card draw? Because I'm drawing a card that is obviously great. Like, I only need one draw and I'm happy, you know, then it's a 2 for 1 that I'm happy with. But what percentage of the time are you getting that? And I think it needs to be. Let me ask you this, Sidebar. You wouldn't play Pattern Matcher if it had blank text, right? If it were just a 3/3 for 4 artifact, you would not play it. So, what percentage of the time do you need to be getting another card out of it before you're happy to play this? And I think because the duplicate has to be on the battlefield and the other one has to be in your deck, then I'm mostly thinking in terms of pairs. You're going to have a handful of pairs of good cards. And you need one half of the pair to be on the battlefield and the other half of the pair to be in the deck when you cast this. And you don't have time to mess around. If you are curving out and this is your 4-drop, you're going to play it. You don't have time to like, well, I'm not going to play my Pattern Matcher yet because I got to find the other blah, blah, blah. It gets better if your early picks have dupes, because I would like to go get the 3-drop I just played with this. Or yeah, if you get a lot of something good. So anyway, get back to the percentage. Tell me, let's think of this as a mathy thing. I tell you, N% of the time, Pattern Matcher is going to get you a second copy of one of your decent creatures. What does N have to be before you're happy to play this? For me, I'm going to say, like, I want it like half the time. I want this to draw me half a card before I'm okay with playing it. Yeah, Eric's at 60%, so we're not far off, Eric. Like, but I think it's somewhere in there. I mean, a free Grey Ogre is good enough. Honestly, if this said 4 mana, 3/3, and when for the rest of the game pay 3 mana to get a 2/2, like that would be okay. Right, and that's where I'm at. So well, what's your number, Saib? If you think 50% is actively very good, your number is lower than mine. So you would run it at 30%, maybe 33%. I think it doesn't hit 50% of the time, so that's why I'm a little bit down on it. Anyway, interesting aside. We'll see. Maybe I'll be proven wrong on that one, but I think it's just too much setup to be happy. And then, of course, if you have if you have 5 copies of here's the Arena, bots undervalue certain cards so much that maybe Pattern Matcher will work because we'll get the Soroform hybrid, right? Pattern Matcher, like imagine Pattern Matcher with your 5 Soroform hybrid deck in RNA. That gets a lot better. No, you never have 10 cards in multiples. You have like 4 cards with multiples sometimes. I think there was a time we had 6 cards with doubles, and I named the deck about it because it was so it was so unusual to have that many doubles. All right, let's keep going. We're almost done. Oh, Scuttlemud is reprinted. This card was very good in the format where creature color mattered, but I don't see how it's going to be that for this. This just looks like bad ramp. So it is fixing though. It's 1 mana of any color. It's just this is killable. I don't know. I would much rather have Skittles, 1/2 ETB, find a basic, than something like this. But if you're desperate for fixing your ramp, You could do worse. It's just I don't think you're going to use the second clause much at all. I see Umpax. Yeah, this is where it can work with the protection stuff, but I'm still not super into it. Stone Golem 4/4 for 5, whatever. I hope to never play this, but if we have to, we have to. And our last card, Vial of Dragonfire, 2 mana for an artifact that has 2 tap and sack. It deals 2 damage to target creature. So a 4 mana installment shock. You have to be pretty desperate for removal before you run this. But I have run this. It's a reprint, and like sometimes you just can't kill anything and need to kill some stuff. So you run the Vial of Dragonfire. But it's not a good card. It can't really be. It's an artifact that deals damage, so they have to make it kind of weak. But it means you'll get them late, and if you're desperate, you can probably do worse, but not much worse. This is not a good Magic card, so try not to run it, but if you're completely out of removal, maybe you do. All right. Hey, we did it. We are at the end of the Uncommons and Commons. It's like being back on LR. We'll see if I don't know if this is what I do every set or not. I like doing it. I love looking at Magic cards and talking about them. And one of the reasons, like, Dionysus was bugging me to do this all week long, or for the last couple weeks, but I really hate doing it piecemeal. I don't want to... Oh, we'll go look. Yeah, we'll check and make... There's... I don't want to do it piecemeal. Looks like yeah, these are fine picks. Got the cycle of... Oh, and they're life gainers, too. Okay. So the new stuff, we got Evolving Wilds and the Life Gain lands. And then Cryptic Caves. Add 1, sacrifice Cryptic Caves, draw a card, activate this ability only if you control 5 or more lands. Whew. A land that replaces itself is nice. It's kind of like cycling, but you get to use the land for a while first. I like it, but I really dislike hurting my colored mana sources. So... we'll see how often I play this. I am highly protective of my lands producing mana. I could see this running as an 18th land. I think that makes more sense. Like, Cryptic Caves is probably good, but you probably just want to be running 18 land when you're running it. Then you're not hurting your mana ratios at all, and you don't hurt too much when you get to draw the card. And we love that. I will say that the life gain, you know, what I noticed when these were in their original set in the cons block, ETB tapped but gain a life just means like everybody is at like 23 life. You know, everybody's going to be playing these a lot. I assume these are going to replace the basic land slot. Is that true? That's a big question. Does anybody know that? Are these just in the set, or are they replacing basic land? If they're replacing basic land, then it becomes like cons block, and everybody's going to have a lot of life gain. If it's just, well, gosh, if there's 10 common slots dedicated to it, maybe it'd appear even more. But yeah, everybody's going to be getting some life gain, so keep that in mind. Aggro is up against it, so I'm thinking this is going to be a little more control-y with all of these mana sources and with all the life gain we're seeing. So no, I know it's in the set, but I mean, like, but we don't. You're 100% certain that it's not replacing the basic land. Are they reprinting the scry lands, or is it like new? Is it enemy colored scry lands? Okay, it doesn't replace basics. Okay, we'll see how that does. Are you saying their numbers are over 200 when the land replaces a basic though? Like, are the for example, are the gates in guilds and RNA over the 280? Maybe we're not on the same wavelength, Fiddles. I'm not. I figured it would. Oh, the basic land number would be higher. Sure. Okay, so yeah, can there be multiple? There can be multiple lands in one pack pretty often. Yeah, that's what I was asking. Is like if they replace the basic land slot, then they're only in there one at a time. I think any given common shows up 2.7 times in a draft, so it's a little under one per pack. Or no, it's a lot under one per pack. It's like call it 3 per 8. There's 10 of them. Yeah, I think they're going to show up a lot more. So, whew, it's going to be a lot of life gain. Keep that in mind. What do I think about what I've seen here? There's a lot of... I'm excited that there seems to be a lot of synergy. I think some of the problems with some core sets can be that they're so meat and potatoes and so ABC that you're not feeling like you're working synergies very much, but it seems like there's a lot of synergies to work here. So I'm hoping that this has some depth and legs because of that. And it doesn't end up being just a core set that we're kind of done with after a couple weeks. Because... it's going to be what we're drafting for a while, especially if we're going for 4x of it. Anyway, extra long stream today with some extra good, hopefully, content on the new set. Hope you liked the set review. Let me know in the comments on YouTube and comments here, whatever. Do you like this? Should I be doing stream-based set reviews for each set? I don't know. You gonna change my scene? You want me to go to a soapbox farewell? Sure. Yeah. I think one thing I need to do is... Oh, thank you, Valhalla. Appreciate that a lot. He's gifting subs. Valhalla is making it rain subs. And I see that's why you wanted me to change the scene, huh? I see what you're up to now, Brian. That's nice. All right, rat burglars, go out and enjoy your weekends, and we will look ahead. When is the streamer thing? I'm part of the streamer. I should go look it up. Let me go look that up before I go. A rat burglar.